All right, we're headed through the frozen tundra out here to episode 4 of the What's Your Craft show.
A little bouncy.
A little bouncy. We're gonna do a little bit of rally racing today.
Rally is racing on closed down county roads.
Real roads.
Yep, real roads.
Real cars, real fast.
Okay, yeah.
Yep,
Real roads,
yep.
real cars, real fast.
So
That's a good description.
That's very good.
yeah, so it's a little bit different than what you would see like on a track.
The What's Your Craft Show, quenching your thirst for inspiration. Let's get inspired.
All right, well, welcome to the What's Your Craft show, episode 3. It's episode 4.
It's episode 4
Wow,
already.
It
Just
flies
like that.
right by. Okay,
Hey, time flies.
it's true.
Especially
I'm
when it goes
Peter
racing.
Monti, my co-host Steve Bartel, and we got some great guests today, but we also have the additional co-host of Ben Slocum, my business partner at Beards. So Ben, you want to just say your name so that all the audio people can hear it?
Ben Slocum, Beards Brewery.
Awesome. Now they've got your voice memorized.
Yeah.
And if our guests would introduce themselves.
I'm Tim Michael, driver of 927.
I'm Michelle Michael, co-driver for 927 as well.
Do you guys want to give a super brief, like, we're going to have some guests hopefully watch, or some viewers that don't know anything about rally.
Like
and
me.
so what does co-driver mean? What does driver mean? Like, you want to give, like, the brief tour of what is rally?
What's your rally race team name?
Lake Effect Rally Team.
Okay.
Awesome.
So Tim is obviously the driver of the car. Rally is racing on closed down county roads. It's a lot of
How
fun.
do you know that?
Real roads.
Yep, real
Real
roads.
cars,
That
real
was cool.
fast.
Okay, yeah.
Yep,
Real roads, real
yep.
cars, real fast.
So
That's a good description.
That's very good.
yeah, so it's a little bit different than what you would see like on a track. We get permission from the county to close down sections of county road.
And this rally takes place all over?
It does. It's actually been going on for many years. And what's nice is Michigan actually is one of the states that has the most rallies in its state, actually.
Really?
So that's a benefit for us. We just got done with Snowdrift, only an hour and a half away. What's nice is the volunteers that are involved and just the spectators is
So
really
Snowdrift is a location or an event?
an event.
Okay.
It takks place at Atlanta, Lewiston, Michigan, Mount Morency County.
Okay.
They usually actually are using their natural gas little in and out roads and whatnot. So it makes it nice for us racers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it actually makes it nice that they do this for us. Actually.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we want to dive into a handful of topics today. So that's a great introduction to it. I'm excited to talk to everybody. Typically at the beginning, we like to grab a beer, just crack one.
We call it crack one.
Yeah, so if you guys want to pick, and we got a couple on the side that we'll grab, so grab what you want. We can try to work our way around our microphones.
Tuck into the microphone.
Just get a comfortable crack noise on the mic.
Oh, that's
All
nice.
right.
It's always so nice.
Now it's official. We're at the What's Your Craft show.
Thanks for having us
Cheers.
at your place. Cheers.
Cheers.
I didn't even get there. Right.
So, yeah, well, the one thing we like to do with this show is record on location, which is fun because we get to go in where people like do their craft. Now, what you guys do is kind of two level of craft. I mean, you got, you're working on the car itself, building the car and that, and then you also have the actual racing. Do you want to touch a little bit on your background in cars, and then like how you got into like taking that plunge? Let's build something for rally.
I would say grassroots. Grandparents were involved in the industry, and as well as my father.
In what manner do you mean your grandparents like the industry?
My father's side, he was a clay modeler for Chrysler.
Oh, no kidding.
So he actually
He's a sculptor.
Sculptor.
That's amazing, yeah, I
Yeah,
love
it's
it.
actually top secret documents that we got to see in his lab coats and whatnot. 69 Charger back window. They flew him to Wichita in the wind tunnel. You know what I mean?
That's
for
incredible.
the racing program for anyways.
Yeah,
so
yeah. No, it's
that
okay.
kind of snowballed into. I have the background, and yes, we loved working on cars and growing up in Florida. went to the karting tracks. There's, Moroso Speedway and all the fun stuff. And so kind of just was surrounded by it. Loved going to the car shows and whatnot.
Did you drive the go-karts at a young age?
Yes, yes. So,
'Cause I know I don't know a lot about racing, but I know
Yes.
that is one thing that a lot of racers start with.
I did. Not competitive, but any moment we got, that was just a fun thing that we did. Down there was Grand Prix Race Rama. Had a 2-mile, 3-mile, karting. Anyways, yeah, a lot of fun. And it doesn't snow down there, so there's plenty of tracks outdoors that don't close up for the winter. You know what I mean? But anyway, the interesting part was, we'll just go right into, it ended up, Dad moved up here, Michael's Collision and Restoration, opened up shop.
And that's in Alanson?
That's in Alanson, and
Shout out.
I will get right to my first Audi. I was working at Boyne Highlands, and a gentleman took me for a ride in the Quattro, actually a 91 Pearl V8 Quattro, and after that, I was hooked. That spring, bought this same car right here at Audi Petoskey, and from there, it was just, the passion just grew. One Audi, then all of a sudden, now I've got 5 Audis, you know what I mean?
Oh, really?
So it was, and so...
They're like rabbits. Huh?
Yeah.
Volkswagen.
They ate after midnight.
These are faster.
Gremlins. So anyway, I was kind of already driving, and before the rally, I was already having fun, you know what I mean, in the car and stuff. Sure, I watched WRC, and it was always a dream, you know what I mean, to build the car, but realistically, when you're a bachelor, you know what I mean, single bachelor, it's like, your connections and stuff are not as great. So it was, met Michelle, and we started spectating 2008, Snowdrift.
You started spectating, you started going to watch the race.
Watch the races, kind of.
How much did you have much knowledge previous to actually diving in as a spectator? As far as actual rally racing?
I was mad that I didn't find out earlier that we had a Snowdrift event. It was like 5 years later that I'm just like, what?
And it was so close to home, too.
Right. That's
Exactly.
nice. To have a strong community here in the state that you can really plug in with.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I would say 10 years later, after spectating and enjoying the traveling, 100 Acre Wood Rally, just south of St. Louis, or southwest of St. Louis, Salem, Steelville, those areas, like just the traveling was a lot of fun. Not just for the racing, but just the traveling.
The community of
The
it, right? You kind of naturally meet some people that
So we were like, second deer hit later, she's like, buy a different car, you know what I mean? Put that one off to this side.
You say second deer hit?
Second deer hit later,
Okay, so you hit 2 deers with this car as well?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
That's how I ended up with all it. So before, you see all these Audis, and it was before we even started racing, I was buying parts cars and, fixing the front clip and whatnot, and keeping it on the road and having fun. So we, Mother Nature's great.
I can't tell you like this stuff at all. by the way. You have no energy for the subject. This is great.
Did you, when you were, you were starting to get into rally, not everyone watching might know, but Ben, my partner here, very familiar with rally, did a lot of it over the years. Were these rallies that Ben was running that you were watching?
I believe a
Yeah.
couple snowdrifts, yes. Yes, before
We
I
didn't
had
know
no idea.
him yet.
How'd you get to know Ben?
There was a gentleman in Petoskey that
I'm not sure who introduced us.
This is Bill Westrick.
Yeah.
But you were like, oh, that he's that famous racer we've been watching.
He's
talking about the pirate?
Pirate.
The pirate. Yeah. Is that your race? Isn't that your
Who's
race
this famous guy in Petoskey? We need to meet this guy.
Yeah.
So when we got into it, we were told, taking all the info, try to meet some mentors and people to help you through your journey. And so we did. We met Ben, and he was very fortunate to open hands, met up with us, not even knowing, you know what I mean? And right away we started talking about rallying, what we should do, and how we should attack, you know what I mean? Attack our want to, start racing. So we were told that first was a rally. Maybe you should do a rally school, learn the language, because anybody can drive, but putting the roads on paper and having my wife read these notes while we're flying through the woods is a whole nother level. Trust, commitment, and it's a whole nother level. So we went to Oz Racing, Oz Advanced Rally School in Idaho, and trained with 2 professionals. We were there for 3 days. They taught us the ins and outs, how how to do recce. That's a whole other thing. We can talk about that.
Yeah.
That sounds
So
that sounds like you said.
Well, are you the only husband-wife team that doesn't, or is that pretty common or uncommon?
It seems like it's getting more common.
It's always been, oddly, a very family-centric sport.
Yeah.
There are father-son teams. The Nunamakers were a mother-son team. Hanson's out of Traverse City were father-son. The Tabor family in Oregon is like grandmother, daughter, mother, daughter, father, daughter, brother
so you just
team.
got adopted in a lot then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
he had a gift.
Yeah.
So
But yeah, pretty early on, Ben offered some really good advice.
In the while you were building the car, is that what
Yeah.
you're looking for? Like
Yeah.
you've not done a lot of racing at this point,
Yeah.
but you know about cars, but like maybe learning more about the specifics of what
Yeah.
to do.
Yeah.
correct, safety, little things to do to help us for service or just to move through the process better of how to arrange stuff in the back. Because when you're racing on the closed roads, if you have a puncture or a blowout, there's protocol, set triangles up, and we keep tools, impacts, and wrenches and whatnot to fix a flat on this on stage. And so you have to pull over, and sure it takes time, but this is all stuff that has to be done in a
This is
timely
part
fashion.
of the style of racing.
Pilot
correct?
stuff,
It's like,
exactly.
The only racing I'm really familiar with is track racing,
Yeah.
and obviously they have pit stops.
Yes,
Right.
So if,
yeah.
you, if you need some, you got a whole crew that's jumping out. So you guys are out there just on your own.
Correct,
Yeah.
correct.
You have to be able to handle whatever
Yeah.
happens.
I would say there could be 2 hours where there's 3-4 stages, totaling more than 40 miles, where something could happen and we have to tend to ourselves, try to, whatever the situation is, adapt to it as best as you can, and either try to finish or to get to service, because we do get service, in between the afternoon or the day, and then what happens
You
is
get time for service, but
Correct.
you're doing it.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you're still the one work.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
not.
we're still-
We
once
have
again,
a
no
service
crew.
We
Oh, you
have a
do.
service
That's part of
crew.
your race team then.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so Lake Effect Rally Team actually includes other gentlemen that do help us through the process, because we have a truck trailer where we're dealing with stuff, with the race and whatnot,
Okay.
and other logistics and stuff have to go on. So
Yeah.
it's a big help.
Did
So
you
look-
take a minute and talk about, like, I know I talked to you a little bit the other day, and I think one trend that we've found with a lot of, crafters or artisans, they take something they're passionate about, but like, how do you take that next step to make it into something that, is like real, that it's not just like a hobby, it's like a little bit more than that, I feel like, for you guys. And so I think it sounded like you were pretty involved in like building a marketing plan and getting sponsorships and how to sell yourself on what
Yeah,
you do.
'cause it's probably not cheap to do all this.
No, it's not.
This isn't a cheap
Yeah,
hobby.
it's,
is
it's
it?
definitely not a cheap hobby. We're really
passion,
lucky that
yeah.
we're both involved in this, and we're both very passionate about what we're doing. But a big part of how we're getting this far too is working with other companies to get us to where we want to go. So like Audi Petoskey has been a very big help for us.
Oh, awesome.
It's really helping us get to different events, helping us pay for actual entrance fees, and then helping them promote their business too. So just by reaching out to companies, some different companies to help with our safety gear, they've also helped us get things at cost.
I think showing
been
that
pretty big.
you've obviously been able to pitch the passion, right? They can see that you care, but
Yeah.
also that you have the technical understanding to get it done.
Yeah.
And I think, I think as anybody that's doing a craft, I know if you can find that community and you can bring value to the community, the community can bring value to you. And I think
Reciprocates.
that's kind of like, I know when we started the brewery, we joined the Brewers Guild right away. And it was a pretty small community at that time, back in 2012. But we spent a lot of time getting to know other brewers.
Yeah.
And, like, there was a very open discussions, and that was huge. So I think that's really cool that with those tight knit communities, though, you have to figure out how to get involved, you know,
Right.
and it's like on you as a new person to say, where can I
Right.
jump in and start? So I
Right.
think that's cool that you guys have been able to do that. Being a small team,
Yeah.
who's like really grassroots, you're doing the work, you're building the cars, you're doing that. I think
Yeah.
that's impressive. So that's cool to hear how some of that came together.
Yeah.
It was really interesting. Just for publicity, we decided to do our first car show in Indian River, and the people that just surround the car and people that were in the woodwork that actually used to rally or race.
It's really cool.
And we actually went home with a People's Choice trophy.
That's
there
great.
was actually the crowd around was very
Very receptive.
Yeah.
Is that beneficial? So that just helps not just racing. We also enjoy going to the different car shows throughout the community to show our passion and to teach people about the rally and rally racing.
Yeah, Peter and I were talking briefly about, preparing for today, and he spoke with you last night, and he had mentioned that part of the spectating or whatever, isn't it kind of like before the race, kind of like a car show? Aren't all the cars
Yeah.
out there where it's very accessible to the spectators
Yeah.
Correct.
to walk up and check it
Yeah.
out? And
They put all the cars on display for about an hour and a half or so.
that's like pretty standard across all the rally
Correct.
races?
Yep.
Okay.
You get to check out the cars and meet the drivers as well.
That's really cool because
Yeah.
that kind of access, is not
The kids
most
love it.
sports, Oh, man.
The kids love. They come in and we let them sit in the seats and
Oh, man.
photos.
Yeah.
And yes, there's a couple young girls that they see the car, they go show up to an event, and they're
really
like,
fun.
"There's my car, there's my car."
Yeah.
It's
That's
really
really
cool.
fun.
It's really cool to see that the positive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ben, what was it like? I know because you did the same thing where you weren't coming from like a ton of resource, but you found a way to build into the community. I mean,
I took kind of a non-traditional route. I didn't really have automotive background. My family wasn't really into automotive aspects of anything really. I had an injury when I was 20, popped an eye, so I had to take a lot of time off work and school, and discovered that, like the Michaels, that Snowdrift was an hour and a half away, and that's the first round of the national championship. So I went to check that out and thought it was pretty cool. So, still was down for recovery, couldn't really do a ton of stuff. So I went to a couple of events and just started asking people if they needed help with anything. Hey, do you need help changing tires at service? Do you need help, cleaning the car, anything like that? And they started building up connections, and over time, somebody, Matt Iorio, thanked me for helping out by putting me in a car for Maine Forest Rally. That would have been 2005. And from there, the itch just kept getting stronger and stronger. So I did more regional events, and then I started kind of doing a little bit more in the Midwest, Missouri through Minnesota, Michigan. And eventually it exploded, and I was kind of competing across the U.S. and actually ended up becoming more of a job for me, where it kind of paid my way through school. And
Oh, wow.
I was running in the U.S. I ended up running the WRC, Mexico a couple of times, Baja, Dakar. So I was competing across,
International, all
North, South America.
You say the car?
Yeah, which is not the old one in Africa. It was
Too many
the South
people
American
died
one.
last year.
So, yeah, I do the. I did the one across South America with Rob Rill.
That's awesome.
And I've done. It brought me to Europe, North America, South America through the years. So.
So did you guys,
Fascinating.
like Ben kind of jumped in where he, helped out. Did you help out on other teams prior to?
We did. That's where
A little bit.
in service, I know we did help people. We helped with crewing. That's where it helped with our build, because I seen what I didn't like maybe,
Yeah.
and wanted to change a few things. So it's beneficial for starting out to either volunteer. We helped with the event, Empire Hill Climb in Traverse City, in Empire, different event where we helped out, which was beneficial. And then the next year we decided to enter, which was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But if you want to get involved in spectating, the best other thing is volunteering, and then helping out if you want to start racing.
Yeah.
Just getting out and meeting people, because all of a sudden people were like, we need a crew, and then if you have a little background, turning a wrench or whatever, you
That helps.
have no,
Yeah. Yeah.
you have no problem probably getting in and getting your feet wet. So.
Yeah.
But even before all of that, we just started reaching out and talking to people, going and introducing ourselves to people at rallies and kind of asking for advice or asking who else we should talk to. And that's
Yeah.
kind of how we met Ben too, is just through references and
Okay.
kind of how we progressed that way too.
The rally community, I mean,
Everybody's
they really have
great.
their arms wide open. And any questions, I mean, right away you just meet them and like, sure, go ahead and sit in if you have any, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I think
it
that's
was-
a mark of people that are passionate about what they do in communities that are really artisan and a little bit more hands-on like that, is they care about what they do and they love seeing other people
Yeah.
engage with it, you
Yeah.
know, and I think that's an aspect of getting the word out about what you care about.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun after an event, coming home, you know, Sunday and putting up on the lift and seeing what we have to fix for the next,
Yeah.
the next event. So, yeah.
Well, I think we're getting close to kind of our midpoint. So what we typically
Oh.
like to do at this point, Steve, if you want to introduce the next portion of the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the Rapid Fire Beer Review.
He does all our voiceover effects and
Great.
So what this is all about is we just we're just coming into our summer seasonal. I know it seems a little early for summer, but you know this thing's gonna get produced. So Copper Star Galactica, it's a delicious beer. We're not gonna talk about it because you're gonna taste it and you're going to give us the first 3 descriptor words that come to mind. So
3 separate words.
you want to pour these since you're closer?
Sure.
Have you guys had this beer before?
Have not.
Any familiar? Oh, this is great. It's even best if you haven't had it, so that we can all really get a blind tasting, so to speak. Now we should mention that.
to use the word delicious.
Tasty, good, yummy.
And we should say at this point, obviously, we're talking about driving today, and we are very responsible. You want to drive, work, have fun, but then you want to do your drinking
Thanks,
later
sir.
when you're in a secure location and you're not going to be driving.
After the fun is over.
Right.
At rallies, you enjoy your beer after
After.
Park Ferment.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly. So, all right. So get, swirl it around,
Whatever
smell
you wanna
it,
do.
taste it, and then hit us with what you think.
And let's we'll go ladies first. So we'll start with Michelle. Take your time, but it is rapid fire. Don't take
Not a
too
shot,
much time.
Tim.
It's not a shot, Tim. That's 5 words.
That's 5 words.
She's
Chris,
tasting it. Crisp. We got crisp. A little swirly.
get somebody else's words.
No. 3 from you. First things that pop to your head. You don't have to think about beer words. Just the first 3 things.
Refreshing.
Refreshing. Just going for a 3rd sip. Tim, you don't have any left.
Did I
what are you
say
doing?
delicious?
Delicious. You can say sure. Yeah.
You said she couldn't.
Oh,
you,
okay.
for you, yeah.
Okay, tasty.
Tasty. There you go.
There you go. Crisp, delicious, and tasty. Take that. Tim's.
For me, I'm a little stout, but mild stout. Like, I'm not even sure if I'm using the correct word because I'm more of a sweet
No,
guy.
don't worry about the correct words. We
It's
just
not
want,
about
we want
correct.
adjectives
We
from
want-
you.
No, a stout with a.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes
You drank it too fast,
it's
Tim.
hard
It's
to
great.
perceive. So this beer actually, I mean, crisp is good for sure. It's got a little bit of pomegranate in it. It uses all Michigan hop, grown here in the state, indigenous to the state,
you.
and so we call it a fruit IPA. It's a little bit bitter. It's got a little bit more
Yes, I like.
like an IPA, but not too
No,
not
'cause
too
I-
bitter and more balanced with that little bit of fruit addition. But great. Well,
Yeah.
thanks
Thank
for
you.
indulging.
Yeah, thank you.
That concludes the rapid fire beer review.
There you go.
Just like that.
Awesome.
So we started a little. I just wanted to with Michelle. We got your early background as far as like auto interests and racing interests, perhaps. Michelle, is this something that came later in life for you? Excuse me, or is there something that you were into speed or cars early on
I've always kind of liked cars.
from a very young age?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up with brothers. I always had Matchbox cars
Yeah.
and stuff growing up. I had the, cool little play sets with cars. And I always, when Tim and I started dating, we'd always go out for drives and stuff. So it was
Fast
kind
drives?
of fun. Yeah, it was kind of a it was kind of a
Tell
natural
us
thing.
about your what kind of car did you get when you were 16?
Yeah, because Tim has Audis. What do you have?
My first car was like an old Explorer the first car I ever bought was a Mazda 3.
They're fun.
We were thinking maybe about also
Special and unique.
special cars that maybe were gifted to you.
Oh, okay.
We have a little insight.
Yeah.
Here.
So my dad, we bought a 1916 Model T pickup.
Wow.
That's
so
really
cool.
It's in my dad's garage.
And that's a working vehicle.
It's in process, yeah.
It's working on working.
Yeah.
Working
It's
on
in
it.
great condition.
Yeah.
I restore cars, and it's
Yeah.
in great
I
condition.
mean, for over 100 years.
Yeah,
Come
that's
on.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, when you have
Yeah.
lanterns for your taillights, I
Yeah.
mean, you're dealing.
It's
Yeah.
a pretty cool
You
vehicle.
mean like
Really?
matched it lighting?
Yes,
Yes.
lanterns. Yes.
I'm into that. That's
Your
cool.
coil box, the wooden coil box, inside the vehicle,
installed.
just in front of your shifter, actually, and hoping that it doesn't get wet and damp.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's funny.
That's crazy.
Do they flare up a little when you hit the brake? Probably.
That'd be a good one.
Yeah.
You spray a little hand sanitizer on them when you
Yeah.
need to turn
Yeah.
as a blinker.
Awesome.
So the racing aspect of it kind of started after you met Tim? Or
I would.
Yeah, I mean, with the cars, yeah. I was always involved with, like, snowboarding and kind of that kind of competitive stuff.
so some
but-
adrenaline type things?
She was.
Yeah.
She was an adrenaline junkie.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So.
I was gonna. That was another question I actually have for both of you. Is can you remember the first time in childhood where you're like, oh, that felt great? Whether it was speed, it's adrenaline in the end,
Yeah.
I guess, right?
Yeah.
But like, dropping in on. I know you skated, right?
I was
So like
just gonna
half pipes or something.
Yes.
That's my earliest stuff with adrenaline.
Growing up in South Florida, I was fortunate to jump on a skateboard when I was 4 years old, and my mom and I, Dad was busy working, and we built my first lawn tramp when I was 5 years old.
Nice.
And yes, I was.
Five.
I was my first 360 little melon grab off. It was a pre-grab, but who cares?
Yeah.
Off a lawn tramp. That was it after
Yeah.
that. And that was, I would say, skateboarding for 25 years. When I found out, your body can only take so much of it. I had to get into something else.
Were you a vert skater more or a street skater?
Fortunately, I grew up with the ramp and with the Powell Peralta and whatnot.
Yeah, yeah, oh, yeah.
So definitely ramp, but then
So you had a Caballero hanging up over
oh,
there.
yes.
Sweet.
so it was moved up to Michigan in '91 to Hillman. Had to turn my old skateboard, took the trucks and wheels off, turned it around, put a little board up, and first snowfall, I was heading down the hill, not knowing that snowboarding was just around the corner, and we'd be snowboarding. But the first 360 off the ramp was probably it was it. That was it. It was a selling point.
Nice. How about you, Michelle? Do you have any memories?
For me, it was either early on was probably like roller coasters or, I mean, I grew up on the lake,
Yeah, that makes
so
sense.
probably like tubing or water skiing or something like
yeah,
that. But I mean, snowboarding too, and I grew up on a dirt road too, so we'd always be like going really fast on our bikes and then making like really sharp turns or braking and doing that kind of stuff too. So
Okay.
When we first started dating, she was a keeper when she didn't tell me to slow down. She didn't tell me, we had our first snowfall, and I'm like, you want to go play around in the snow? And she didn't look at me crazy. She's like, let's go. And it was,
That's awesome.
yes, it was great ever since.
Very cool.
So.
Good. So I think we've touched a little bit on, like making the car, like getting hands on, building that side of the craft. But maybe like it'd be interesting to discover a little bit more. Once you got into racing, you started going, like give us a little bit of, you've been doing it since 2018 now? So a couple of
2018.
years, like.
As
We're
a
in our
team,
third
your team
season.
started. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
We'd be in our third season.
Okay.
Okay.
9 events under our belt.
9 events.
Awesome.
Okay. And
You guys,
medals
you
or
win any of these?
winnings or.
We do.
Right behind you.
They're not-
Yeah, right
We-
behind you. There's some trophies that we've actually won
Awesome.
in some.
Believe it or not,
That's
our
great.
first-
It's hard to
some
win
shots
anything,
of
so that's
those.
impressive. In 3 years, I don't care. I mean, it's hard to
Yeah.
win anything in
You're
life.
new
So
at
New,
Yeah.
very competitive sport.
Yeah.
Building a car, you're going to find things that you have to fix. You know what I mean? It's something that didn't work out, trial and error. Our first trophy was actually our first event in the UP. Believe it or not, the Central UP Rally, we placed second in all-wheel drive. I think maybe 7th overall out of 20-some cars.
Wow.
Which there was flooding. It was a very wet rally, not your typical rally. So yes, we slowed down. I didn't think we were even going to place. And sure enough, from what our mentors are saying, finish rallies. I kept it on the road, and at the end, here you go.
Is there a
here's
lot?
trophy.
Is there? You just said your mentors say keep it. I'm sorry. What did you say? Just finish the race.
Finish. Yes, I was told to just
is
finish
there a large
races.
percentage of racers teams that don't finish?
Exactly.
Each race.
Yes, there's
What's
many
roughly like the?
many teams. If you have 30 entries, there could be 5 to 10 DNFs, maybe or more.
Depends. It all depends on the
Really?
rally.
It depends on the rally.
But it could be 30% of the field.
Correct.
Most I've seen was about 80% attrition.
Wow.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, because you're not racing on nice flat controlled. I mean,
No,
you guys are
there's
slamming vehicles
so
around,
many
aren't you?
variables. You show up to a rally, it's sunny that night. It could rain, snow, and then everything that your homework you did the night before, you're quickly figuring out a game plan for that morning. So.
You got to be adaptable, I would think. You know, it's
Yeah.
like even like in brewing, we have a lot of raw ingredients. So like, you know, sometimes the barley comes in a little different, or the hops come in at different alpha acids or things. We have to adjust, you know, the game plan a little bit. So that's interesting. Do you bring like extra tires or different things to, if you're like, hey, we got different weather, we're going to need to swap this out,
Different
or we're going to need
shoes.
to swap that out, so to
Yep.
speak?
Yep. We bring a whole separate set of tires with us. Even if we have a puncture or something, we need to have an extra
Yeah.
set.
So that's a whole other side of it, like the craft of like figuring out how to deal with the conditions today and the now of it.
Yep.
After 5 events, I kind of had an idea of what we need to bring. Extra oil pans. I have a backup skid plate. I have a heavy-duty skid plate and a little bit lighter one. Extra front control arms. There's certain parts that you definitely find out that it's beneficial to have. There was one event, our first Lake Spirit Performance Rally. If I would have brought an extra oil pan, we would have been set. But we had a puncture on the oil pan, and I forgot to bring an oil pan. So.
Yeah. So
How enjoyable is that part of it for you guys? No, I'm being serious, like, because there's got to be something that certain people like a good kick in the teeth because they like the challenge and they like to face it immediately and deal with it and get through it.
It's a good learning. It's a good learning thing,
I'm
so.
optimistic. First of all, we're very fortunate to be doing what we're doing. Not a lot of people get the chance to jump in a race car and compete. So when there's negative that happens, I don't try to feed into the negative. I look at the positive. I would say that event after the oil pan, we were.
I mean, you have to prepare for it mentally because you know it's coming if the percentages are so high of chances of failure at some point, right?
Exactly. So you look at on a Saturday morning, we started 30th. We actually climbed to 8th overall after 3 stages. Oil pan. So our oil pan got hit. We were pushing really well. We had to cut back and call it, but everyone, you're not mad. Well, this is my first LSPR, and I was 8th overall out of 60 some cars.
Still a win.
In a slop.
Yeah.
So that right there, I'll go home with that as a bonus. So.
yeah, you're working on that continuous improvement, right? You're like, hey, look, I made it this far. You know, what can we do the next time to make it further? But like seeing the steps of like, hey, we're working from nothing to something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So the next year, I reinforced the skid plate. We took other precautions, and we finished. So.
That's great.
So yeah.
And
it's-
in
That's
that
very cool.
case, I mean, the car was still in one piece. The oil pan can be replaced really
Yeah.
easily. We came out unharmed.
Right.
So
That's important,
that's
of course.
still a really big win.
Yeah.
I mean, every time you race, you are risking your health.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you got roll cages and all that stuff,
there
but
is. There is that.
there's got to
There's
be
still
quite
some
a
risk.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And for us and for myself as a driver, I drive what I see. If we get off in the notes, I go to default mode. You tone it down.
So you touched
being a
on
hero.
Yeah, you said something really small there, but that I think is a big deal to this sport. Just having known a little bit about it, and this is maybe more your side of the craft. The notes, right? Like,
Right.
what does that mean? You know, what is that? What are you doing there? Maybe you want to touch on that a little.
So
You obviously
like,
have them.
yep. So the day or so before the rally, we're given some stage notes.
This whole
So
booklet
You're
here.
giving this
This
Yep.
is one race.
yep.
Okay.
Yep. So the stage notes.
We'll get a shot of that.
Yeah.
So the stage notes, this is also what Ben does. People can either use these Jumba notes or write their own. more and more teams now are writing their own. We actually went to Oz Rally Pro Training to learn how to write our own as well.
Okay.
So what these notes are doing are our notes on what the road is. So I'm reading these to Tim as we're driving, and it's calling what the road is 2 or 3 steps ahead of time.
And you're just telling him like what's coming up, not
Yeah.
like how to handle it, or do you say I would approach it this way?
It kind
Is
of
that part
it
of
kind of gives him a gauge as far as what gear to be in or
Yeah.
what speed to be at. So like a left 5 is a pretty open corner, so he can take that corner pretty fast.
Yeah, and so this is like a shorthand language, right?
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
a communication part where you both have to really be in sync on this.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
Are you verbalizing the whole words, or are you just saying L5?
I'm just saying a left 5,
Okay.
or like left 3 is the smaller the number, the tighter the corner gets. So as those fluctuate, he kind of gauges on how fast he should be going or taking those
Yeah.
corners.
When I hear left 2, that's usually second gear coming down, and
Yeah.
yes.
So you say you get this packet the day of the race?
The day before usually, and we get to do
So
something
then you go
called.
through it that night before and
Yeah.
kind of get your.
Usually we get to do something called Recce or Reconnaissance, where we get to go drive the road at like 30 miles an hour
Gotcha.
and kind of,
And then you
Not
can
in the
adjust
rally
your
car.
notes, or you can take
Not in
your
the rally car?
completely own notes.
yeah. Yep.
So you do recce in a different car.
Correct.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yep.
So
And
are
at
you
like
just
30.
flipping through these? I just have this
Yeah.
vision in my head to be like, ah,
What we do is
like Tetris coming
Yeah.
down. You know what I mean? Like, oh my god, another one.
it's funny because what happens is during recce, sometimes there's a little time schedule per se, but there'll be other competitors behind you, and you'll let them go around if you want to work on a complicated section, a technical section. We have a GoPro in there that we record, so we get to go home or go to our hotel or where we're staying, and go over the footage and make notes. If I was not sure on one of these calls, I can go back in the footage
That's
and
cool.
look at it,
Yeah.
and we actually mark the steering wheel as well with a center line and the
On the video
severity
then.
of little segments on the steering wheel that will let you.
Yeah.
Oh, and what that will do is if something's going on like snowdrift, if a plow truck comes by and you make it. And you just remember something. A good driver your instinct will something's not. I felt something I wanted to change.
Yeah.
We'll go through the footage. We'll make the correction because that usually what I was taught. Any gut feeling is there for a reason. So you go back in and like snowdrift this year. We knew it was gonna be if it was a right 5, if it was an R5, I would tell her not really, but right 4. You know what I mean? Or right 6. I'd bring it up a level just for safety. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But per se, she makes the different markings in there and just. Lets me know. And if my ADHD doesn't kick in, we usually do a great job.
Yeah.
So you'd have to you have to have quite the level of trust with your.
There is
Now, is it called
trust
a
commitment.
co-pilot? Is there another name for the person that reads and,
Like
and navigates? Is it
co-driver, navigator.
Navigator. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is a trust level, and that's like I've said before. If we get off notes, which it happens, even the best of them get off notes. We've been trained to get back on notes. I start calling what I see. 150, right 5, it felt, right 4 maybe, small correct,
Yeah.
and then usually will be different landmarks and it will write. So if there's a big oil
Kinda
pump,
write
she'll write
sheets
oil
in there.
pump,
Okay.
and that will help if we get off. And then I slow down, obviously, till we get back on notes.
Yeah.
So, and that's where I've learned. That's the biggest. Is just drive what you see when you get off notes because that's. And what's really interesting is one of the events. The summer snowdrift that's in Atlanta, Lewiston. There's rallies that they have that's just tulips, where they actually call it blind rally. Where sure we
don't
run
get
them.
all that.
We run them in the past before, and some of your memory will come up a little bit. But
But
no,
no provided notes.
no
Right.
notes. There's tulips, and there's what the tulip is this kind of sharp corner up ahead. You know what I mean?
Okay.
But
Yeah.
but not calls every second. Yeah. So
What-
a little more dangerous.
A lot of these roads are pretty curvy and are pretty,
Yeah.
on the winter ones can be icy. So what kind of speeds are you talking about?
Race
Speeds
speeds.
will range. Snowdrift, I actually was excess of 90 miles an hour actually in some of
Wow.
the straights. Consistent, I think my
Average.
was 50 some miles per hour was the average speed on ice.
That's impressive.
In the trees and tight corners and jumps and whatnot.
Because I can imagine like 30 being fast for some of these
Yeah.
corners, right?
30 is
because
fast for some.
there's some like sharp things.
There is. No,
Yeah, if you look
30
at
is
the footage,
fast.
but you also get up to higher speeds.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where the notes come in handy. It's like chess. She lets me know what's ahead. If I'm coming up over a large crest and she'll say large crest 450, I know I have a big gap ahead, so I'm not going to be lifting to that large crest. I'm full pedal,
Yeah.
jumping, and I know I
Yeah.
have plenty of time ahead to make my next move.
Yeah.
So that's where that is a big part with the safety part of it.
Yeah.
So with water crossings, there's one part in snowdrift on Bonfire Alley, a left 3 into narrows into a bridge, water hazard on both sides. I was obviously going to take it easy through there
Yeah.
because it was we only had 2 miles to go to finish the night, and yes, so yeah, it ranges. Now on the gravel, I've reached excess of 100 miles per hour, but not being a turbo car, it's hard to get those speeds in the straights. And what they like to do, they usually don't like to do anything bigger than 750, which what their language is yardage per se. They'll do chicanes to break it up. So, because long straights, these cars, you don't need to be going 130 miles an hour.
That's not the point.
Yeah.
The point is
Some
the
people think it
obstacles,
is.
right?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
maneuverability.
exactly.
Yeah.
No, we're not at the drag strip. Sure, it's
Right.
fun to be at. It's fun. It's your blood's rushing at 100 miles an hour. Let's just
Yeah.
put it that
Sure.
way on gravel.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
So I think that if people want to learn more about this or more about like what you guys do, like what or follow you guys, what's your social media? How do they?
So they can
Check it
follow us on our Facebook page. It's Lake Effect Rally Team.
Okay.
If they want to learn more about rally in general, the NASA Rally Sport website has a lot of really good information under the NASA University tab.
Okay.
The ARA, American Rally Association website, also has some information under their website, for
Awesome.
technical rules and competitor information.
Awesome.
And if you ever think about spectating, you can actually Google snowdrift, and believe it or not, plenty of information comes up to get you going.
It's a niche community, but it's a strong community. And
Yeah, it is.
there's a fair amount of people involved from
Yeah.
what I can tell.
This year at Bonfire Alley, the last event where massive fires all along the stage. It must have been over 2,000 people standing out in the woods with their, you know what I mean, having fun, sharing stories, just.
So do you have people lining the road in areas when you're driving? I see these videos
Yeah.
on YouTube.
Yes.
That's about all I
Yeah.
know about this.
Yeah.
And then you
Yes,
see
that's
some of the ones where
exactly-
people obviously go
Yeah.
off and get that makes me nervous just watching them. I can't believe people stand so
Yeah.
close to the road.
Yeah.
North America's, they're a little more safe, and actually all throughout the world, it's a lot safer for spectating. In some areas, they were getting pretty risky with it. Here in the States, they're very particular on where spectators go.
And I think
Yeah.
Ben can probably speak to that a little bit.
Yes,
The safety varies depending on where you're at. In the U.S., it's a lot safer. There's been a big push towards spectator safety, marshaling off specific areas where they can sit. Some of the stuff I've done overseas, little less attention focused, I think. Yeah.
It's a nice way to put it.
Yeah.
They just need feet away from the cars coming down the
Yeah.
corner sometimes.
Yeah.
You know?
And I mean, I've gone off pretty severely at times.
Sure.
And luckily, nobody was standing where he went
standing
through.
there,
I mean, a house was there, but
you hit a house?
we went through a house.
You
Rolled through a house.
Where did you go through a house at?
It was the last time I ran the Rally Panamericana in Mexico. It was just outside of Mexico City, and very sharp corner. I called it. Driver was a little too hot and aggressive through it.
Was anybody home?
The homeowners were on property, but they weren't in the house. We went through a retaining wall, a like 12-inch thick tree, a water cistern, the corner of the house, and the chicken coop, and landed on top of a little barn. So the car was a complete and total write-off.
Were any
after that one.
chickens injured in this accident?
No. I mean, we were pretty bruised and battered. The car was destroyed. I think we left the road at about 70 miles an hour, and it was off a
Lord.
cliff, and it was fun.
Off a cliff?
Yeah, it was at least, we rolled over at least 4 times, at
They
least
went through a
possibly
house-
more.
start
The
with, like,
camera kind of fell off and wasn't fully recording everything.
That's
so.
crazy.
So that shows how safe some of these cars are built
Yeah.
too.
If
Yeah.
you're doing a good job, you should be safe, right? I mean, there's an inherent risk, but I think they're probably a lot safer than a lot of other vehicles on the road, regular road.
I agree. at high speeds, today's cars with the airbags and crumple zones, you know what I mean? But these cars are stitch welded, the 6-point roll cage, halo seats, the Hans, the helmet, fire suits. Yes, you're pretty much covered.
Ben, is there anything else you want to ask these guys or think?
I'm
Comment on?
pretty familiar with the sport, so
Well, but anything you think people might be interested in?
it was a great sport for me, and oddly enough, I like cars, but I'm not a huge car person. I like competition, but I'm not a huge competition person. For me, the allure was always that it was an adventure. I mean, you're not on a track, so track sports, you're seeing 12 corners 1,000 times each.
Yeah.
With rally, you're seeing 1,000 corners one time each. Rain, snow, deserts,
Jumps,
paved roads, gravel,
cliffs,
ice.
houses.
You're
Animals.
Yeah.
My first.
Oh, so those deer you hit, was that part of a race?
That was not part of a race, but one of our events up in the UP, a fellow competitor, hit a deer.
I hit a black bear in Pennsylvania. I was co-driving for Silvio Alva. It was a guy from Peru. And came around the corner, and there was a black bear walking across the road, and we just kind of briefly nicked him and
Wow.
didn't want to stick around to see how he was feeling.
Yeah,
No,
probably wise. Keep moving.
It's an adventure, and that's what's amazing about it. Day, night.
All right. Well, thank you guys for being on the show. Is there anything else that you want to hit on before we wrap it up here?
I guess if you're really interested in what we're doing, follow us on Facebook, Lake Effect Rally Team. You can enjoy some of our adventures that we endure.
And get involved with the community.
And get involved with the community.
Fantastic. We always do a little cheers at the end.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thanks for
thank you.
Thanks for coming on. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Who wants to go fast?
Oh, amazing! The What's Your Craft Show, quenching your thirst for inspiration. Let's get inspired.